All right, let's talk about one of the most iconic, most dramatic, and let's be real, most intimidating houseplants out there, the Fiddle Leaf Fig. If you've ever looked at one of these beauties and thought, no way I'd kill it, well, you are in exactly the right place. We are gonna break it all down and demystify this plant for good. And hey, we're not the only ones calling it a diva. Plant expert Anastasia Remeslo totally nailed it. But here's the secret about divas, right? Their needs aren't necessarily complicated, they're just really, really specific. Today, we're gonna learn to speak its language.
So, let's look at the quick and dirty spec sheet. Water-wise, you're looking at about a weekly schedule. For light, it wants it bright but indirect. Difficulty is, moderate. And this is a big one for all you pet owners out there. It's toxic, so you have to make sure your furry friends can't get to it.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll properly meet the Fiddle Leaf Fig. Then we'll cover the 2 absolute golden rules of its care. After that, we'll build its perfect home, learn how to shape it, decode what it's trying to tell you when it's unhappy, and we'll wrap up with some serious pro tips. By the end of this, you're gonna be a Fiddle Leaf Fig pro. All right, first up, let's get to know this plant. There's a very good reason it's considered an architectural icon. You just can't deny its power in a room. I mean, with those massive violin-shaped leaves, it's basically a living sculpture. But here's the absolute #1 thing you have to get about this plant, its core personality. It despises inconsistency. It hates change. If you remember one thing, remember that. It is the key to everything. And that hatred of change brings us perfectly to our next section, the 2 golden rules. This is where we crack the code, because it really all boils down to being consistent with its light and its water. So what is it? What does this plant want from you more than anything else? I promise you, if you can just nail these next 2 things, you're already 90% of the way there. Okay, rule number 1, light. You'll hear the phrase bright indirect light, and you need to know this isn't just a suggestion, it's a non-negotiable demand. It means a spot with a big view of the sky, but where those harsh, direct sunbeams in the afternoon can't hit it and scorch its leaves. You know, an east-facing window is usually the sweet spot. Oh, and give it a little quarter turn every week so it grows nice and even. And the second golden rule is all about consistent watering. This right here, this is where most people go wrong. The method is actually super simple. Just stick your finger in the soil. If the top 2 or 3 inches are bone dry, it's time to water. And when you do, soak it thoroughly until water runs out the bottom. But, and this is so important, dump out that extra water, never ever let it sit in a puddle. That's the fast track to an unhappy plant.
All right, now that we've got light and watered down, we can build out the rest of its perfect little world. So let's talk about creating the perfect home, getting the soil, temperature, and food just right for our diva. It really does start from the ground up with the soil. Your standard potting mix from the store is a death sentence. It just holds way too much water. You need something chunky and fast draining, and this DIY recipe is basically perfect. That orchid bark and perlite create little air pockets, which is exactly what the roots need to breathe and stay healthy. Beyond the soil, you need a stable environment. Keep the temperature somewhere between 65 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. But honestly, it's even more important to avoid drafts. Seriously, a cold draft from a window or an AC vent is like its worst enemy. It will literally throw a tantrum and drop its leaves. Feed it every few weeks when it's growing in the spring and summer, and then just let it chill out in the fall and winter. Okay, so your plant is alive? That's awesome. Now let's make it thrive and turn it into that beautiful tree-like sculpture you see in magazines. Welcome to shaping your plant through pruning. So you've basically got 2 main moves to get that classic tree shape. The easiest one is called topping. All you do is snip the very top growth off the plant. That encourages it to stop growing up and start branching out. The more advanced technique is notching. That's where you make a tiny, careful cut above a node on the trunk to trick the plant into popping out a new branch right where you want it. Okay, but what happens when things go a little sideways? First rule, don't panic. The cool thing about Fiddle Leaf Figs is that they're really talkative. You just have to learn how to decode their signals. Let's figure out what your plant is telling you. Let's start with the big one, brown spots. But listen up, not all brown spots mean the same thing. You gotta play detective. If the spots are soft, dark, kind of mushy, and starting in the middle of the leaf, that's almost always root rot from too much water. But if the spots are hard, dry, and crispy right on the edges of the leaves, your plant is probably thirsty or the air is too dry. And it's got other ways of crying for help too. Are the bottom leaves turning yellow and falling off? Yep, that usually points right back to overwatering.
Seeing tiny red freckles on new leaves? That's called edema, and it's a sign that your watering has been all over the place. And if it suddenly drops a bunch of healthy-looking leaves out of nowhere, that's a full-on panic attack, usually because you moved it or it got hit by a cold draft.
All right, you've made it this far, you've got the basics, you know how to read the warning signs. Now for the fun part, the pro-level secrets that will take your Fiddle Leaf Fig game from surviving to absolutely thriving.
And the first pro tip is, well, it's really the only tip that truly matters. Be consistent. Once you find a routine that works, the right light, the right watering schedule, the right temperature, do not mess with it. Consistency is the whole game. This next one builds right on that last tip. Find its happy place. And then, for the love of all that is green, leave it there. They get settled in their spot, and they absolutely hate being moved. It's one of the fastest ways to trigger one of those leaf-dropping panic attacks we talked about.
This one is so simple but makes a huge difference. Those big, gorgeous leaves are total dust magnets. So every few weeks, just take a damp cloth and gently wipe them down. It's not just to make it look pretty, you're actually cleaning off its pores so it can breathe and soak up more of that precious sunlight. And finally, we have my favorite tip, and it's gonna sound a little weird. You gotta wiggle your plant. I'm serious. Gently grab the trunk and shake it for a minute or so every week. This mimics the wind and signals the plant to grow a stronger, sturdier trunk to support all those big, beautiful leaves. So there you have it. The Fiddle Leaf Fig isn't actually difficult. It's just really, really consistent. It tells you exactly what it wants, and it rewards stability above all else. So the only question left is, now that you know the rules of the game, are you ready to meet its demands?